Everything is dose dependent. A sufficiently large dose of anything will kill you, pretty much. A sufficiently small dose of anything will be harmless. If you think about it, this is, well, to me, a pretty astounding thing to think about. If you get cut and you're bleeding, well, most likely it won't kill you. But if you got cut enough, deep enough, for long enough, it would kill you. It's just a matter of dosage. Same with poison or even water. You can consume enough water that it'll kill you. I had thought about this idea, and it does blow my mind. But what's really interesting to think about is how it pertains to the spiritual. You know, I often hear people say that X, Y, and Z doesn't matter, doesn't affect them. If you're around certain behavior or kids get exposed to certain language and ideas, it doesn't matter. But it does, and it's dose dependent. Kids get enough of a certain idea, of course, they will take it on and they'll be stuck with it. It'll be terminal in a sense, just like a fatal dose of poison. The idea that we didn't even learn the language of English in any formal sense, and yet we speak it, means that we simply got a high enough dose of it through our ears, processed by our brains, that we're able to speak it. This is just dose dependency. Somebody who has very little exposure, i.e. a very low dose of English in their life, will not be able to speak it. The spiritual portion of this is that when we look at dark things, we take in dark media, we listen to dark music, we're surrounded by negative people, this does affect us. The dosage becomes higher, the effect on us becomes greater. I've often thought about this, and this idea kind of crosses many segments of society, or lifestyles, I guess, in society, believing in positive thinking and all this. But I guess I'm not really going that route with it. I do believe that exposing yourself to dark and demonic and satanic things does build up. Of course, with it being in small doses spread across so much media, I don't really think that amounts to a small dose at that point, as it's in so many things, the satanic and the occultic. I think the dose becomes fairly high past a certain point. You know, many conservative Christians are often ridiculed for trying to keep their kids away from certain things of that nature, because, again, the understanding is, what could a word here or there, or exposure to this idea or that idea really hurt? But I think it does have a cumulative effect, and the dosage is quite large at this point. I think that as a society, we are exposed to a whole lot of it. The thing is, as we live in this world, we're always going to have to deal with darkness. Always going to have to deal with people spreading negativity and touching us with evil energy, as it were, bad things are bound to happen. It's just getting a balance of these things. I guess it's better to say that it's good to have these things on the outside of your spiritual barrier. I think the idea of praying for others when they are clearly angry with you is probably the better way to go about it, rather than returning the anger. Then that lets it in. And then you're letting that dosage, as it were, kind of get too high. It's like you're becoming the thing that you're trying to avoid. You've taken in so much of it, you're becoming it. I think that's the spiritual significance in this idea. I think we have a certain tolerance for good and bad. Unfortunately, for most people, it is very easy to ignore good things, to ignore blessings, to take things for granted. People do this all the time. I think our society is fairly awful at appreciating the goodness of the things around them. Of course, I believe that's part of the reason they're going away. But all that is to say that we want to have a higher dose of good things, because it does work in the other direction. I feel better when I read more scripture. I get a higher dosage of it. I talk about spiritual concerns with others, or listen to their concerns. The less I do this, the lower my dosage, and the less that I feel like I've let God into my life and participated in the things I'm supposed to. Everything is dose dependent. We have to have the right amounts of these things in our lives. Of course, as I said, we can't ever fully limit the evil. That's why I think it's so important that we not let any more of it in than we have to. There's no sense in indulging these things. You know, I noticed this many, many years back when I was still an agnostic, maybe an atheist, but there was something in the realm of 10 years ago. I started to notice that so much music, even in the mainstream, had become so dark, so depressing. And I'd been listening to music like that most of my life. And right around the same time, I started to think to myself, you know, it is kind of nice to just get away from all this heavy, dark, moody music and movies. It wears on you. Even when I was not at all spiritual, I realized this. How much can we go around with just constantly soaking in so much darkness before it becomes part of us? Before it spreads and infects us like some type of disease. The takeaway here is to balance these things as much as possible. Do not let this darkness grow, and keep the dosage as low as possible.